Hello, my name is Rochelle, and I'm doing this video for Positive Psychology. This is my video presentation assignment. I chose to do the assignment on the movie Karate Kid, and all of us have probably seen Karate Kid before or have heard of it. And it's just basically a story about a kid who kind of gets bullied and gets beaten up from these kids that know karate, and he doesn't know karate and he doesn't really know how to defend himself, so he wants to learn. And so he finds this teacher named Mr. Miyagi, and he goes to Mr. Miyagi's house every day after school to learn karate. And at first he's a little confused because he seems like he's just doing chores for this man, and Mr. Miyagi has him waxing all of his cars, has him painting his house, painting his fence, and sanding his deck. And so eventually, obviously, Daniel was getting angry because he came there to learn karate, but he thought he was just doing this man's chores. So then he started to leave, and then Mr. Miyagi called him back and asked him to show him the motions that he just learned. And this part of the movie is where it all kind of comes together, and he realizes that all of these motions he's learning somehow connects back to learning karate and helps with learning karate. And so let's skip to the end of the movie where he now knows karate and he's pretty good at it, and he's going in this competition to try to learn and beat this main bully that's been kind of beating him up throughout the movie. And so he goes to this competition and he's doing pretty well at first, and then somebody that's on the bully's team, he ends up going against him and he breaks his leg so that Daniel won't be able to compete against his bully. And the reason they did this is because they wanted him to win, and they were afraid that he wouldn't be able to beat Daniel. And so the kid that broke Daniel's leg obviously got disqualified, but he had to do it because his coach told him to. And at this point, Daniel gets taken back, and he kind of just lost all hope, and kind of everybody lost hope on him. Like his friends and his mom all come up and say, he did the best he can, but he wanted to keep going. And even Mr. Miyagi told him that, he doesn't have to keep fighting, but he told Mr. Miyagi that he wanted to keep going and he wanted him to heal his leg. So Mr. Miyagi fixes his leg from this healing method. They don't really show the healing method in the movie, they kind of just skip to the fight scene, but he fixes his leg, and it's not all the way fixed, obviously it's still broken, but he's able to withstand the pain. And he goes out and he ends up beating this guy at the end. Daniel wins. And so anyway, this movie, I think, relates to positive psychology in a few ways. See, Daniel is getting negatively impacted at the beginning of the movie because he gets bullied and he gets beaten up by these kids all the time that know karate, and he doesn't. And he realizes, this is a weakness of his. He doesn't know how to fight. And so positive psychology isn't only about looking at your strengths, but it's also trying to find ways to improve your weaknesses. And so he realizes that karate is a weakness of his, and he tries to fix that by going to Mr. Miyagi every day and working on his karate. Now, at the end of the movie, he loses hope. He's sad. He's down because he just broke his leg. But he doesn't completely lose hope, because instead of accepting the failure and dreading over it in a negative way, he gets back up and he keeps going, which is very inspirational. And I think with positive psychology, instead of looking at things in a negative way, Daniel did something to make it positive, which was keep going. I think this relates to my life in a way, because I'm on the track team and I came as a walk-on last year, because I'm not like an all-star track athlete. I kind of just joined for the social aspect. I'm pretty competitive. I love being part of a team and staying in shape. So straight from the beginning, practices were hard, and I was kind of like thinking to myself, is this really worth it? Because I was working really, really hard in practices, but I kept getting beat over and over in the meets, and I just had these negative comments going on in my head, like, why am I even still doing this? And then instead of seeing it in this negative way, I started to think of the positive, because if you just keep having these or throwing these negative comments everywhere, it's just gonna draw you further and further away from the sport. And so as soon as I saw it in a positive way, and worked to my full potential, I started to see improvement. And just like Daniel was doing all those chores and not seeing any of the improvement, and he wanted to quit, but once everything came together, it went from a negative attitude to a positive attitude that he built on, which is kind of what I did with track. And also at the scene at the end, when he gets injured and he wants to keep going, I also relate this back to track, because I worked really hard in the summertime to stay in shape and to improve for this next year of track that I have. And I ended up injuring my hip. I tore my labrum. And so and I realized I had to get surgery on it, so it was negatively impacted me in a way. And I was sad about it, of course. I feel like all my hard work was for nothing, but I chose to look at it in a positive light. I'm still part of this great team, and I'm still working hard, and I'm still having fun. And then I ended up actually making it to conference, and I think it's because I looked at it in this positive way, because if I would have looked at it in a negative way and I would have dreaded on it, I probably wouldn't have worked that hard in practice, because I would have thought, what's the point? But I didn't, and if I did, I probably wouldn't have made it to conference. And so that's basically my video presentation, with comparing the Karate Kid movie to my own experience in a positive way, and not just looking at the negative, and how looking at the positive can really impact your life in different ways.